What's up, everybody? Frank Valkyria. Welcome to the channel. Yes, here we go again after the holidays. We're almost approaching the new year. What do you want to see for the new year? Do you have resolutions? Let me know which one are those. I do have one, and it is for the world, not to get back to normal, but to get in a better place. Huh? If there is something to learn from this 2020, is that probably we have to fiddle around what we consider normal and make it better so that we don't have to go through this shitty period again. And here we go. Together, let's do another reaction. This was a suggestion from you always. You. And since you see that we're also doing more reactions, that they're not only music, we are expanding, we are opening up, we're doing movies review. Yes, we checked Wonder Woman 1984. If you're curious, go check that out. Or perhaps not, we did geography, Brazil, Indonesia. Let's do also others. And here we have Inside Rio Favelas. Let's go favelas. I'm curious. Let's go together.
If you go to a Google map of Rio de Janeiro and put it into 3D mode, you can see what the city looks like as it was designed by urban planners. But you'll notice parts of the city that don't look like the rest. See the difference? The people who live in these parts of the city with the clean lines and the well thought out design.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's really good urban planning. It looks like could be Madrid or any other European city.
Are called people of the asphalt. The people who live in these parts of the city are called people of the hill. Even though the people of the asphalt and the people of the hill live closely intertwined throughout the city, they live vastly different lives. These informal communities that look like houses stacked on top of each other, sprouting out of the jungle, are called favelas.
Wow.
Home to both vicious drug gangs as well as some of the most peaceful, creative, and resourceful people in Rio. I want to show you what they look like
Of
on
course.
the inside.
Of course, skip. Let's go.
Community that was built without any oversight of a public authority. No zoning, no building codes, no public services. These places just kind of grew out of the hills over time thanks to two main factors. First was slavery. Brazil imported 11 times more slaves than the United States did, and Rio alone was home to more slaves than the entire American South. Slavery ended in 1888, and free slaves, still denied many rights in society, built these informal communities on their own.
Oh,
in more
man.
recent times, favelas.
People suck. People in power suck. You know what's the thing that sucks the most? It's actually that I don't remember exactly, I have to look into this again, but of course, Africa, it's huge. There are many countries there. And I remember reading about neighboring countries helping like helping the foreigner, or helping the people having the colonies, basically catch or sell other Africans from other countries. So there was also this kind of BS going on. Oh man, 1888. Can you imagine? It's really not that long time ago. Wow. And I'm also incredibly surprised. I didn't know that the majority of the slave trade was going towards South America. It's just, wow.
Been fueled by massive migrations from rural Brazilians coming into the city looking for work. Not able to find affordable housing, these workers built their own communities. Today, 25% of Rio's residents live in these favelas. I spent time in 6 of Rio's favelas
25%?
to try to figure out what happens when parts of a city develop without the presence of a government.
Oh my god, that looks like places in India, in Goa. I was in Goa, like they're literally like, there are probably, it's not even that bad in Goa. There were literally pole lights with all those cables, like, and you go like, how does it work? How do they manage? And also then you realize that in the most chaotic places, people actually sort of develop an equilibrium that it's just remarkable. And the guy, like the guy said here, this is a place where it just developed without regulations, because probably to regulate this, it's a nightmare. But I see a fairly organized type of building, even though I'm not so sure of the security foundation or whatever of those structures, but so far they seem to be still standing there. So this shows that probably in the know-how people that build those houses, somehow, even without regulations, they managed to do it in the safer way, or the way that probably doesn't collapse on you.
This is Rocinha. It's Brazil's largest favela, and it has been dubbed a city within a city. It's a completely self-sufficient economy, the result of decades of makeshift solutions to basic needs like electricity.
Look, oh my God, those cables, man. Oh my God, that gives me like anxiety to look at those cables like that.
Without a formal government presence, the residents of Rocinha
I need
created
some
their own
tea.
association which helps coordinate public projects and resources. Since these associations grew up totally informally by people who had no training in public administration, the resulting community design brings with it a little more zest and creativity than your traditional city. But make no mistake, Rocinha is a full-on, functioning mini-city within the city of Rio de Janeiro. This impromptu resourcefulness is common within favelas. Here I am in Vidigal, a favela not far from Rocinha. This man Paulo is showing me his garden, but it wasn't always a garden. 15 years ago, this hill that we stand on was teeming with garbage. Paulo decided to clean it up, planting trees and cultivating a garden space that now produces fruit. He did this without asking permission because, after all...
This is the best thing you could have done. You said Pablo or Pablo? Very good. Good initiative. This also... Oh man, I can go on for a long time if you get me into talking about authorities and human beings and us on this planet and the Garden of Eden, and why do we have to pay rent, because everything is regulated, everything is taken from us, and the land is just there, bountiful, reacting to the weather, giving us fruit and vegetables and trees and flowers and all kinds of things that just are there. Effortless. And somehow we have also found a way to learn how to cultivate, how to use seeds to resprout, regrow. What an incredible knowledge. Yet we are freaking here paying rents when the heaven is just out there waiting for us. We are the dumbest creatures ever. So, Pablo, very good, very nice. I like your garden.
There was no one to ask permission from. If you look around the garden, you'll realize that everything is made from trash.
It's funny because this solution is the same solution that you see like in Hearthship houses. I think it's somewhere, Texas or some other places in the US, where this guy developed this technique of recycling garbage with tires and glass and plastic to use it with earth, and creating those self-sufficient houses called hearthships, which they're also pretty amazing in the way they're constructed, and they recycle water. To look at this, either the guy took inspiration or inadvertently there is this type of resourcefulness that people come to the same conclusion. This has also been proven sometimes in science, where scientists, researchers which were not in communication, they managed to come to the same conclusion studying something, researching something. That's pretty remarkable. Beautiful
On the
view.
other side of the city is a favela called Marta. People in this community have created...
Hey, that's like Paris. The Marais in Paris is one of my favorite area. You know what is strange? All these houses like this, they do remind me of like little villages in the south of Italy where I come from. Apart from the roughness of the not finished outside of the houses, But for the rest, very similar. Even if you go down to Barceloneta in Spain, in Barcelona, there are similar things. It's a little bit messier here with those cables, but somehow I find it fascinating. And if it wasn't perhaps because maybe for a foreign, it's kind of could turn out violent, I don't know. I like those areas. There's a lot of wonderful people. Naples now has changed a lot, but has similar areas which were considered very rough and potentially dangerous, like Spanish Quarter, I quartieri spagnoli. But now things have changed much more compared to the 80s, the 90s, and the 70s. So in a way, I see these, I'm kind of a little bit familiar with it, but I also know that those places are a double-edged sword. Sword. They can be quite dangerous for
young people to come and learn new skills. They also support
for outsider maybe
artists to create projects around the city that explore and communicate life in the favela. Here they are building a model of their favela out of recycled wood. In Providencia, a favela near the port zone, I met up with this guy, Mauricio, a photographer who lives in this amazing house. Mauricio photographs life in the favela and provides transparency to the...
Mauricio, you did the ayahuasca or something else that changes the perception of reality or enhances it, and all of a sudden you have like a metamorphosis of a house. Metamorphoric house, however you conjugate that thing.
Good and the bad of these places. He thinks of photography as a weapon to fight against everything from drug cartels to the government when they show up trying to remove parts of his community. Whenever he sees corruption or foul play in his community, he photographs it and distributes it to a network of local and international media contacts. Over the years, people have learned not to mess with him.
É sempre brigando. Então, essa é uma arma que dói muito neles. A fotografia dói muito neles. Você resolve muito fácil com a fotografia.
So why are these people who live in poverty and neglect so driven to create beauty in order to survive?
É porque você sempre espera pelo poder público. E o poder público nunca está pronto para você. Porque se a gente não fizer aqui, não é eles que vão vir aqui fazer. As coisas são mais permitidas. E outro é lugar de...
This is exactly how I feel, I remember I watched a video of Russell Brand that I enjoy listening to people which they offer solutions or thinkers, modern talkers, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I was reacting, I don't remember, on a video about, I forgot what it was, but I said something under the video like, until we kind of recognize our own responsibilities in this society, things are not going to change so rapidly. Then I saw somebody replied some kind of dumb thing like, you have what did he say? You don't have any authority, or you don't have any rights, or you don't have any... Man l'anima roba da terra incrociata bastard. So I was reading this comment that said something like, you don't have any obligation towards society or blah, 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 blah. And I thought, like, this is the stupidest thing that I've ever read. Of course you have obligations to be a better person, to be a better neighbor, a better man, a better woman, whatever. Of course you have obligation. That's how a better society is constructed, by acknowledging that what you do has an effect, cause and effect. This utopic ideal that actually sprouted out of the US, not so much because it was the truth, but because it was possible after the war, with this economical boom of selling products and then finding a way of advertising this product, creating a need, creating an image, creating a dream that people would want to associate with or embrace. And that's from the beginning. Now we are here. We give it for granted, commercial, all those things. And even though I'm not against capitalism in the way that I do recognize that this sort of boom in economy, in our system, in our society, has brought also a lot of benefits. And there are numbers for that, of course. You see the quality of life that increases, mortality decreases, and all kinds of other things, of course. So there is quite a big plus side to it. But at the same time, you also have to remember that, we are abusing our system. And when you abuse a system, when you approach things with greediness, then things starts to get out of balance, and we start to move towards self-destruction. Anyway, going back here to the obligations that we have as a citizen, I think it's very very inspiring to see that always in difficult areas there are people which they happen to be born there, that they are from there, and instead of leaving, they try to make the best out of it and engage firsthand to create perhaps opportunities and change. So my man right there, thumbs up.
Muito esquecido.
This reality of neglect from public investment has created a culture of creative survival. But there's a dark side to this too.
So right now we're traveling over Complexo de Alemão, which is a huge complex or block of favelas. We're not going into the streets today because this place is still very much run by drug trafficking gangs. I would be sugarcoating the situation if I didn't talk about the fact that drug gangs still have major influence in a lot of the favelas, and Alemão is one of those places.
Perhaps the most powerful gang in Rio is called the Red Command, a group that began as a left-wing political rebellion and whose headquarters are here in Alemão. Cocaine arrived in Rio in the 1980s, enriching the gangs and allowing them to grow in power and territory. The Red Command became more violent and lost its political ideology, focusing entirely on drug and arms trafficking.
The fact that favelas are informal and unregulated, it means both that they can become incredibly vibrant because people can take this attitude and build on qualities and be creative and change your environment. But it also means that you can get incredibly dysfunctional places when the energy and the kind of approach is the opposite. So you have these two extremes and they come out of the same force of kind of informality and lack of regulation and kind of flexibility.
In 2008, the city of Rio was ready to take over the lawless territories of Rio. They assembled a special force of police officers to enter the favelas and drive out the gang influence. They called this process pacification of the favelas. But this gets tricky really fast. There's been this big discussion in the United States about...
I remember watching a documentary talking about the Rio de Janeiro police, if I'm not mistaken. There was one of the police better suited and better trained to basically guerrilla style kind of patrolling because of their experience with the favelas, which was basically, like you see here, like an ongoing battle against the police and against the criminality. I find this quite fascinating because, like the woman just before was pointing out, when there is an area where there is no regulations, you have both sort of extreme emerging. The possibility, like sort of the human nature tendency of trying to make things better, to work with what you have, make things better. And at the same time, also another pocket of human nature of perhaps desiring power and control. That kind of omertà, we say it in Italian, like behavior that comes from, now I don't remember exactly the English word, I'll see if I find it, but that kind of like mob mentality where you have to respect without questioning, just the kind of like ultimate authority, which is the clan or whatever. So it's fascinating to observe that, but at the same time also shows that after all, a certain level of regulation also benefits society at large because it keeps some people away from trying to basically mug you or take your house, things that could be possible otherwise. But at the same time, of course, the system might hinder the possibilities of outbursts of creativity, because even if you want to paint a wall, you're kind of gonna go to the sort of legally, you have to go to the city hall, you have to talk to somebody, they have to value the thing. You probably have to go through many more steps in order to do something that graffiti artists did all along without any permission.
Police brutality. But Brazil is on a whole different level when it comes to police violence and corruption. Human Rights Watch estimates that US police kill one person for every 37,000 arrests. In Rio, they say that number is 1 in every 23 arrests.
What?
So you can see why some felt skeptical of letting the police.
What? And I thought is it true that I think American, they kill way more people. They have the easy finger. But this shocks me. Like in Brazil, 1 in 23? God damn it. That's violent.
To try to restore order.
Wow.
This is Santa Marta.
Hey, Santa
It's the
Marta.
first favela that received pacification forces back in 2008.
Isn't that also where they shot the second Hulk? Huh? Or am I mistaken? And also, those things on top of the roofs. I know, it's for raining water. Huh? Or it's just connected to the land, what do you call it? Main line of water supplying?
It also happens to be the place where
Hey.
Michael Jackson decided
Yes,
to shoot a
we
music
see-
video.
Era muito violenta, uma comunidade muito violenta, um poder armado muito forte aqui, né? Tinha dia de tiroteio começa de manhã e termina à noite, em pleno na praça. Depois da pacificação, foi quase
So the pacification did have some positive effect.
zero, chegou a zero.
Pacification worked for some.
Okay, yes, pacification works. I just wanted to say something before I forget. I find it so ridiculous, the fact that those hills are so beautiful. Like if you come in Italy and you go see like a place like Positano, which is basically like, let's say, upper class kind of favelas-like, place where you have those mountains just falling into the sea, and then you have this little village hanging on the side of the mountain. And this reminds me so much of that, especially in those parts of Rio on the hill and in the valley. And I think it's so beautiful that it's such a strange thing. Anywhere else, probably this area would have been made into a sort of like high, upper class, upper scale, whatever you call it, housing area. Because the landscape is beautiful. Probably the view is also beautiful on top of those things. So if in the near future, for instance, those areas will be developed, and maybe in partly reconstructed, not for the wealthier, but just for normal people, but just to make things a little bit better, I think it would look fantastic to live on top of those hills.
Santa Marta and a few other favelas for the first few years after 2008. But this favela is small, and the city dedicated its best police forces to the job. It's been a whole different experience in places like Alemão and other bigger favelas. Many of the favelas that I visited that had apparently been pacified were very clearly still under the influence of the Red Command.
Wow.
So while there have been some successes in pacification, the city still has a huge challenge ahead of it in taking control of these places. International attention paid to favelas is usually directed towards the conflict between the gangs and the police. There's movies and video games about this. This problem has been perhaps disproportionately
I remember
amplified
this
across the
movie.
world. But while gang violence is certainly a problem, it represents one small slice of the favela experience. What seems to me as the more striking and interesting aspect of favelas are the thousands of men and women who are thriving in creative ways, in spite of being neglected by their government.
All right. I think that's basically it with the video here. Watch the original if you want, of course. And this was very informative and fascinating. You know that I always enjoy learning new things. I knew a little bit, but I actually didn't know that more cities had always favelas areas. I thought favelas was just one area of Rio de Janeiro, so I apologize for my ignorance. I had no clue that there were so many other cities which had a favelas within or around. So that also a little bit saddens me, because it means that there are a lot of people living on, let's say, on the outskirt or on the edge of poverty or, you know, difficulties, even though we see in this video that there are so many lovely human beings which they are resourceful and definitely with the right mind, trying to get their hands to work to improve the circumstances perhaps they were born in or they chose to live in. So for me, that it's extremely remarkable. If you guys have other videos like this you want me to react or review, I will be really happy to do so, also from other countries, of course. I'll see you later. Go check the other videos. Subscribe if you want. Ciao! Ciao!